Hello, welcome everybody. Hello to everybody in the chat. Good to see you. Hello to the members there. I see all of you. And thank you so much to my mods today. We got Nancy and my Tony. Yep, there he is. I see ya. Welcome, everybody. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult, where in the mornings you'll catch me recapping Scientology news that has the internet buzzing, and also talking about my 35 years in Scientology and how I left with 3 generations of my family. I also do interviews with people in and around the community talking about all things Scientology, whether it's protesting, whether it's live streaming, whatever it is. And today we're going to be chatting in a little bit with William Gude, Scientology Audit Streets, LA. William Gude, the Gude father himself, who really kicked off the protests that are currently happening and exploding all over the United States and even the world. We've been seeing videos lately from Perth, from Australia, from Melbourne. And I'm still not sure how to pronounce that because people emailed me 2 different ways, Melbourne and another way, but you get the point. You get the point. These protests are just expanding and they're getting larger and larger. We're going to talk about a little bit of breaking protest news and some new news. William is going to be here in a little bit. He is wrapping something up. So we're going to get going and cover some of this because it's what we're going to be talking to him about as well. Welcome again, everybody who's coming in. Hit that like button on your way in and hit the subscribe button as well. Now, okay, there are some big things that are going to be happening that we're going to get into, like I said, as far as protests go. Because one of the things that I want to talk to William Gude about are his thoughts on this whole explosion of protests around the area. So what I would like you guys to do, if you have questions, put your question in all caps and have your question follow. And we'll get those all lined up so we can get through as many as we can. I want to say thank you to Danny here for that. Hey, Danny, good to see you. Thank you so much for that. Danny is out in Los Angeles. If you're not familiar with him, you can find him here on YouTube. Unfortunately, he was released from jail where he was unlawfully held after being picked up for something absolutely stupid and ridiculous. Now, while we're waiting on William to get here, and again, if you have questions, put question in front. Super chats automatically get starred, so those will pop right up. But we want to grab as many questions as we can once William gets here and we get going. Stephanie Sweeney, SPTV, we don't lie, we multiply. I love that. Absolutely love that. Now, you guys, there's going to be a new Scientology organization in Long Island. This is something we need to keep an eye on. Anyone who lives around Long Island, or if you're headed that way, listen to this. You are not going to believe this. Well, you are going to believe it, but I was like, what? What are they doing in Long Island? Scientology just dumped a ton of money into this property, $15.2 million. Church of Scientology buys Long Island office property for $15.2 million. Yeah, Danny, will that be your next trip? I don't know where their current organization is exactly, but here's what I do remember. Not that long ago, we shared, and I'm hoping you guys will remember who it was, or maybe this is somebody who watches the channel regularly and she can reconnect with me. There was a woman who was protesting outside the Long Island organization that was really in this just this busted up building. It really was. And this is going to be their new building. It was just this horrible location where it was. So let's see what else they have to say about this. The Church of Scientology has purchased an office property in Melville for $15.2 million. The California-based church bought the 62,500 square foot office building on 5.5 acres at 263 Old Country Road. So if anybody knows that area, there you go. Built in 1999, the 2-story office building, which has parking for about 250 vehicles. And how many will Scientology probably need? What? I don't know. Let's be generous and say maybe 50 if you count the staff. It's going to be another empty parking lot, just like an empty building. Now, the property had been the longtime home of ADI Global, a distributor of security products, before the company relocated in 2021. Scientology, which owns properties throughout the US and in several other countries, totaling many millions of square feet, according to published reports, has been leasing offices in Bethpage. Okay, so that has to be, Bethpage must be where that hole in the wall was that a couple of protesters had showed up earlier. And I know we featured those videos. And I got to really dig in my emails, and I've been digging and I couldn't find it after I saw this because I wanted to reconnect with that person. So if anybody knows who's protesting in Long Island, let me know. Natalie at lifeafteroccult.com. So goes on to say, just talk about public records, list the property taxes at $285,000 and change. And while Scientology is a tax-exempt organization, it has yet to apply for tax-exempt status on the Melville office property, according to the town of Huntington assessor's office. And I think that's kind of important here because they're probably going to apply for it. Liberty, was that you? Okay, good. So it was Liberty here. That's right. Okay, good. Yeah, do email me because I want to chat with you about this and see. Yep, Bethpage was you. You were out there. Okay. So Liberty, tell me what you think about this then. Again, it says that while Scientology is a tax-exempt organization, it has yet to apply for tax-exempt status on the Melville office property. So I'm not as familiar how that works when it comes to actually applying for tax-exempt status for a property. You know, is it just kind of like an easy thing? They go and they're going to get it because, it's already approved because they're already tax exempt? Or is there a way to bring awareness and maybe stop that from happening in the first place? I don't know, but this came out. This was just released. So this is this just came out not that long ago. But I'm curious about that. If anybody knows, or Liberty, maybe you're in that area and you can check it out and see. Now, it says the Melville deal is the second major Long Island office property to a religious organization in the last 14 months. This is also interesting. In December 2022, the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses bought the 365,000 square foot office building on 20 acres in Woodbury for $27 million. So in 14 months, the Jehovah's Witnesses have bought a giant building for $27 million, and Scientology bought this building for a little bit over $15 million. And again, take a little look at that. Here it is. And what was it? 5 acres, 5.5 acres. So I think things are about to get very exciting in Long Island, because now that they have the building, what they're going to have to do is raise money. They probably already are, continue to raise money for the renovations. That means they're going to have a lot of events. That means they're going to be doing a lot of reach out to Scientologists. They're going to be hitting them up. They're going to be pushing very hard. Let's just say that. So this might not be a bad time to, if anyone's protesting out there, and be asking those Scientologists, how much debt are you in? How much debt did you have to go in to buy that new building? How much of that 15 million did you go into debt for? Because things are really about to heat up there. And I think we need to keep an eye on that. Yep, they are scheming. Pura Vida. They are totally scheming. They just bought this building in Long Island. It's going to be their new ideal organization location, but they have not yet applied for their tax-exempt status for the property. So I don't know. Liberty, we'll have to talk and see what you can find out there locally. And she says, yeah, I had no idea. I'll go visit for sure. Liberty is the person who was protesting outside there before and had a really fun conversation. I think it was with a FedEx guy. So something to keep an eye on. All right. Like I was saying, keep your questions coming for William. He's going to be joining us in just a little bit. And we have a little bit more protest news to go over. And these are some of the things that we're actually going to be asking about his thoughts on some of this. The cult wars. Olga Martin, right? It just seemed that way because What are the odds that the Jehovah's Witnesses would buy a building in the same area within the same timeline? I mean, it does really seem like dueling cults kind of there. I don't know. It's interesting. You know how often you'll go and there'll be like a Dunkin' Donuts next to a Subway, right? You always see like a Walmart and then a like a Great Clips kind of a thing. Is this the beginning of that? I don't know. I'm totally speculating here. Are we going to see Scientology and then the Jehovah's Witnesses together in different communities? Are the Jehovah's Witnesses kind of following suit with what Scientology is doing with buying these buildings, renovating them, buying them on the backs of their members who overextend themselves financially? I don't know. But neuropsych makes a good point here. Cults are taking over Long Island. So if anybody else is in Long Island, speak up and connect with Liberty and let's see what we can find out and raise some awareness and bring more attention that this is happening in Long Island. And like I said, this news was just released and came out. So we need to keep an eye on that. Wow, Stoli, you caught alive. Greetings from Slovenia. Hey, that's fantastic. My daughter Shelby, who is also an ex-Scientologist, has been to Slovenia. I think 2 times because she has a friend there. Yeah, I don't think neuropsych that they are going to forget to apply for the tax exempt status, but how great would that be? How great. Okay, so I got something else to show you. I got something else to show you here. Okay, hold on. All right. Now, in Canada, we're going to pop over. I got a clip here from Jeff over at PTS for Life. If you are in Canada, if you are near this part of Canada that we're going to talk about, this is going to be huge. This is a huge opportunity for protests, and Scientology is using this as a huge opportunity. And I want to get William Gude's thoughts when he joins us to see, like, okay, what, like what would your advice be, right? Especially with something that's big. And we're going to get to that in just a second here. Okay. Get ready, Canada, because this is coming. Let's pull up Jeff here at PTS for Life and take a little look. Okay, take a peek at this here.
26th, 27th, and 28th, which is a weekend, they are holding the Canada Live Ideal Org Weekend.
And this is in April.
This is going to be massive. They are expecting all Scientologists across Canada who can get there to get there. So let's see. Let's look at their promo piece. This is their promo for the event that was sent to me. Our summit venue is here. Wait till you see this venue they got, guys. It's it's not very nice, but regardless, they're working on a budget. 2024 Ideal Canada, and they are going to be having it at the Panamonte Banquet Hall, which is in Etobicoke, just outside of, I guess, a suburb of Toronto. And this is what it looks like inside. I did check the stats on the website. It seems like they have there's 3 banquet halls, 1 big one, and then 2 smaller ones. They have them all booked out.
All of them. Okay, the fact that they have all of these banquet halls booked out means this is going to be a huge fundraiser for these ideal organizations in Canada. When Scientology does an event on this level, it is very focused on the money, raising money, getting money there to open more of these ideal organizations to pay for the renovations. This is going to be one for the record books, not just for Scientology, but I think for Scientology protests that are going to be happening. And it looks like some of you live close by and are going to be going. Sam, that's awesome. That's wonderful. Let's see what else Jeff has to say about this.
Yes, I definitely tried to book one of the smaller one, which holds like 50 people, because that would have been hilarious. But unfortunately, they probably booked the whole thing to keep anybody from being there, because they like to be very secretive and control everything. So they can hold, I believe it's around 700 people. Doesn't seem like a lot, but that's like That's more than half of the Scientologists in Canada, basically. So this is what it looks like inside. This is the address, 220 Humberline Drive, and we should take a look at that here. If I can bring up the right screen. This is actually a really good location for protesting. This is the outside view, and this is the main entrance here. So this is the picture that they took for their promo. This is the main entrance. There are some other entrances, but I think those are more like emergency exits and so forth. And then all along the street here, we have open, public, visible sidewalk this entire way.
Which those are huge areas, if you can just visualize it, where people would be able to go and protest. There's a lot of space for a lot of people who will be able to protest at this thing. And I agree with some of the comments in the chat that it's possible that Scientology rented out all these rooms, not so much because they need them, but because they want to make sure nobody else is there. I would not put that past them at all.
We're going to go over all the entrances and everything here as well. But so we got open sidewalk, open sidewalk, open sidewalk. This is the other entrance here. There is parking around the back, which I'm sure they'll be using because this parking lot isn't that big. But all this real estate for us to be protesting. A little aerial view here to show you. So this is the main street on the right. This is all open sidewalk. And just for anyone who's watching who is American and does not know laws for, like public laws and protesting and so forth, just like in the States, Canada has First Amendment, but it's called the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Under Section 2B, you are allowed to, it's basically freedom of the press. You're allowed to be, film, and exist basically in any public space.
And that too is really interesting because the rules can change even from state to state, sometimes in the US. And Jeff is going to be tracking this. So PTS for Life, if you are not already following and subscribed to Jeff at PTS for Life, Nancy will throw up a link and I will remember to add it below. He is going to be tracking this and sharing about it. And when you look at it too, this is not that far out. It's the end of April. So it's several weeks away. Frankly, I'm kind of surprised that Scientology already shared about this because usually they do it much closer too. Let's see here.
As long as you're not breaking any laws, there's nothing they can do about it. And then also freedom of assembly, so you can gather. There have been some concerns about needing a permit for a protest. You don't need a permit for a protest in general. You do need a permit to like close a road or like public access for said protest. So just so you're aware, to answer Sally's question, this is not Scientology's property. This is a private business.
Yes, absolutely. That is just amazing to me that this is going on. And it is a sign that we're going to see so much more happening in Canada, because that means that Scientology is really starting to concentrate a focus there to do an event of this size, especially to plan that far in advance, is really big for them, really big for them. So we need to keep an eye on that. And I love seeing in the chat how many of you are actually going to be able to make it there. I wonder how far I am from that, actually. Ontario, I guess it depends on what part. So Ontario Squirrel saying, if you live in New York State, it's not that, depending on where you're at. It's not that far, maybe? Yep, Neuropsych Jeff did his homework. He's going to have all kinds of information about this and moving forward as well. And I would assume, in fact, you know what we should do is have Jeff on the channel again and talk about this as we get closer to it and see what we can do here in the United States to help support people who are going to be going to this protest. Yep, The Other Side of Life. You already subscribed to his channel. He's cool. Yes. I love the Dear Scientologist videos that he does as well. It's so great. Marina, yes, I'm excited. Getting Streets for another interview is a big win. He must know she's a good girl. I do believe so. And you know what? He's actually, let's see here. Hopefully he'll be joining us soon. We do have a few things to go through. I thought I would do this before he was here so he wasn't just sitting through it anyways. So we'll go through this stuff and he'll be jumping in. So if you're just jumping in, William Gude is supposed to be joining us in just a little bit. He is wrapping something up. That's an idea. Super anxiety chick. Would William be protesting outside news stations, etc.? Would that be an option to bring more awareness? Yeah, I don't know. It would definitely get their attention, I would imagine. And often, sometimes people don't realize that they already have connections to local media. Think about where you live, the city or town that you're in, and you have a connection with or know somebody in local media where you could alert them about what's going on, especially if there's Scientology in your community and protests that are already happening. Say, for example, in Portland, Oregon is a large state, but in Portland and around it, there are smaller communities. And don't underestimate the power of smaller local publications covering something because they then feed into the larger ones. And a lot of larger publications tend to get some of their news from smaller local papers and outlets. So don't underestimate that. If you've got like, hey, my uncle runs this tiny community paper in an area where there's Scientology or protests, hit him up, send him information about it, especially if you are a resident in that area. You can do things like, there's always letters to the editor as well, which, by the way, Scientology does a lot of those. They do a lot of those letter to the editors. One other thing I wanted to share with you guys before William gets here is to peek in again at Denver because we didn't get that. I actually wanted to add this in this morning, but we did not have time to do with that. Mexican Longhair, who's here on YouTube, he's a First Amendment auditor, was there with Jay, Denver Scientology audit, and we're just going to peek in on this a little bit.
Maybe something along the lines, how does it feel to be defrauded and not be able to, get out of this religion?
So he's talking about, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I have my ideas, but everybody in the chat and who's watching, tell us in the chat. If you're catching this on the replay, tell me in the comments. They're looking for what do you think are good ways when protesting to communicate these things? Because, if what you're saying is too long and it takes forever to say, then that's just if you can't yell a paragraph, right? It needs to be short and impactful. So keep this in mind when he's talking. I want to hear your ideas on this.
I don't know. There's stuff like that. The defrauding thing I think is a powerful one. I just don't know how to word it yet.
Some of this is across is difficult.
Yeah.
We know what it is, but to then have it presented in a way where
right.
they start to become curious or for themselves.
Yeah, it's human nature to be curious,
Right.
So maybe you will get to, maybe not the older ones. The older ones are kind of set in their way and, they're going to do what they want to do.
And the young girl, there's an opportunity that maybe she will look up this stuff later today.
Maybe, hopefully,
and maybe not today, but maybe in a month that she'll be, interested in finding out more what she's involved with and the stories of people who have.
And Jay makes a really good point, and I do believe that that's true. Sometimes when at these protests, especially when there are Scientologists around coming and going, and they can hear what you're saying, it strikes a chord often. And it's something that they might be then looking up later, to find out about what that is. I know that when I was leaving Scientology, that it was when Anonymous was protesting Scientology. And some of what they said, because I already had my doubts, I already wanted to leave. I was already coming up with a plan to see how I could leave with my family. And some of those things were impactful. And for me, it was along the lines of, how much money are you spending on Scientology? Do you really feel free? Are you able to come and go as you please? That's more the C organization, not so much the everyday member of Scientology. But even the staff members, there are about 3 roll calls a day at a minimum in Scientology at an organization, and they call them muster. Why are there so many if you're a volunteer? Because staff members at these organizations, like the one that we just looked at that Jay and Mexican Longhair are at, they sign 2.5 and 5-year contracts. Yet they're volunteers. That's why Scientology doesn't have to pay them a living wage, because they're religious volunteers. But if they're volunteers, why do they have to sign a contract? And if they're volunteers, why is it if they don't finish that contract that they then have that freeloader debt? It's the same thing in the Sea organization. You sign a billion-year contract, which, that's just not valid. But if you don't finish your contract, you get handed a freeloader bill. These are things that I think Scientologists will tend to gloss over because it's part of the mind control. You are manipulated to believe that you should not question, that you shouldn't question those things. That's cute. Terry saying that Mexican long hair is Jay's William Gude. And I've heard that from a lot of people. He is on my list to get here on the channel for an interview because he's been doing First Amendment audit work for a while. And it's great to see him out there with Jay in front of the Denver location there. Laura Flynn. I've thought reading the Declaration of Human Rights and then asking if they have those rights would be a good tactic. The Declaration for Human Rights says X. Do you have that right as a member? I don't know if you know this or not, but that is how my daughter really woke up about when it came to Scientology. My daughter Shelby, at first, I pulled her out of Scientology, and well, you guys have heard this story. Maybe some of you haven't. She was going out of the country with her dad, with my ex-husband, and our plan was to get her out. She thought that she was going to be going back to Scientology, but we weren't going to send her back. And she was fighting us on it until we sat down and we went over those Declaration of Human Rights and asked her, how does that relate to your experience in Florida? You know where Aaron, growing up in Scientology, and Lori Plays, where they all protest? That's the Flag Land Base. And when she was there was sleep deprivation. They were made to have rice and beans. I mean, it was just completely a violation of those human rights. And it was that because it was so logical that she went, oh my gosh, you're right. You're right. That's totally it. And it made a huge difference in her ability to break free from that Scientology brainwashing and start taking steps away. And she got a job, she went to school, and now she's, gotten through college. She's gotten her master's degree, married. My granddaughter is about to turn 3, just doing great. That's a great question too for William. We are going to save that. Definitely. Yes, Laura, get the critical mind working again. That is a big thing in Scientology. That the irony is that you're indoctrinated to believe in Scientology that you're going to learn critical thinking, that you're going to be able to look at things from different points of view. And really, you're not. It's really about putting on those blinders and seeing everything through the lens of Scientology and through the lens of your indoctrination. Laura Font saying in Seattle, they were all elderly. We need to have a sign that says, what's your retirement plan? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. What's your retirement plan? Interestingly, I shared a clip, but the audio wasn't working, but I'm going to do an interview with Louis Repetto, Leaving Scientology, here on YouTube, because he was just at an org and had a conversation with a Sea Org member who'd been in the Sea Org for 38 years. And he did ask him about his retirement plan. And I think the guy said something along the lines of, well, he just doesn't plan on retiring. You're not allowed to retire in the Sea Org. Liberty, if you are still here, can you tell us in the chat what your channel is? I know you're going to email me, but people in the chat want to know what your channel is here on YouTube. Liberty is near Long Island. And if you missed it earlier, we shared news that just came out today that Scientology in Long Island has purchased a building, which means they're going to start renovations. They have not yet applied for their tax exempt status for the building, so they're probably going to be doing that. So if people are around Long Island, might be a good time to look into that and talk to some people and get out there. Tinker Mom. Ask William why he's so hot. We probably won't, but that's a good question. I don't know how he would answer that. Literally, Lisa. Scientology has even rewritten their own definition of each of the human rights. Apostate Alex and Catherine Olson did a great live a while ago comparing the two versions. Ah, they did. I did not know that. I didn't know that they rewrote it, but it makes sense. Even a current version I saw was like, it was bad. But here's what we're going to do, people. We're going to get things going here, and I'm going to pull to the main stage the Gude father himself, William Gude.
How are you doing?
Hey, good to see you.
Trying to get settled in here. Just got finished with an appointment.
Yep. We had it covered. We covered some news. Scientology just bought a $15 million building in Long Island.
Really?
And yeah, and they have not yet applied for tax exempt status for the property. I'm sure it's coming, but just thought I'd let people know in case anyone wants to go talk to the city and let them know the deal.
Yeah, I've lived in Long Island, and I know Long Islanders are not going to. They're not the type of people to put up with that type of stuff. So we'll see.
Ah, that's right. Are you from Long Island?
Yeah, I've lived in Long Island, lived in the Bronx, lived in Brooklyn, Manhattan. So I'm a New Yorker, and I have a little bit of a New York attitude out here in LA. And I think
It
the
works well.
Scientologists have seen a little bit of it.
Yeah. How are things going with the nose and all that?
So I just got off the phone with my doctor. Quite honestly, I don't even think it needs to be reset. When I look at it, I could just live with it.
Yeah.
But I have to go in today, this afternoon, and they're gonna set it, and then they said I have to wear a cast on my face on my nose for a week. It's coming off as soon as I leave that place. There's no way I'm walking around with that.
Yeah, that would be funny, but yeah.
I'm not.
No. Now, speaking of your nose, have you heard anything about what happened with the kid who assaulted you?
The kid that actually cracked my nose was the guy I had on the ground. He did
Ah,
it while he was on the ground. So the guy who like punched me when I was standing up, he didn't cause the damage. I've
mm,
heard from him. He's reached out to me. He's apologized. The one we called Harry Potter.
yeah.
The other kid, I have not heard from him. So
Ah, okay. So the one who was called Harry Potter is one that like whacked the phone away.
he whacked the phone away the first time, and then
Mhm.
he punched me in my face and then ran off and disappeared. Sergio followed him to his house, and he's threatened him with supposedly having a gun. The guy who broke my nose was the guy who hit my phone the second time. When after that one guy punched me in my face and ran off, I went to go run after him to make sure to see where he was going, and his friend kept grabbing me and trying to pull me back. And that's when I had enough, and that's when I just threw him onto the ground. When he was on the ground, he started claiming that I was killing him, that he couldn't breathe. So then I loosened up, and of course that's when he gave me the elbow.
Ah.
Yeah. So
Well, has anything been done? Like, was he ever taken into custody?
no.
The police haven't interviewed. They just literally are doing nothing about it.
The police are literally they're going to do nothing unless you force them to. So I mean, listen, I'm going to force the issue. I might wait a few days. There's like other things that I have lined up that I want to force the issue on with the LAPD.
Mhm.
But listen, when you're fighting the cops and you're fighting these big institutional forces, a lot of times if you're just looking for a direct action for something, you're not going to get it. What you have to do is it's a little bit of narrative building and show what they've been doing over and over again. So listen, I'll let you know my strategy. Let the LAPD know
Yeah.
my strategy. So we have a bunch of new people coming into LAPD over the next month. We're going to have a new OI Inspector General. We're going to have a new Executive Director of the LAPD Commission. These are the civilian side, the oversight side of the LAPD. They're absolutely useless, but there's new people coming in. What I want to do is I want to force the issue by really showing from the beginning to the LAPD Commission. Here's the first incident with Patrick Perry when he came into the alleyway and his dog bit me and bit Chris without a Hellcat and bit a
Mhm.
third person. That he was making criminal threats and all this. Why hasn't he been arrested? Then same Patrick Perry, who then in another incident went and confronted SP Spanglish and pulled out an illegal baton. It's illegal, the baton he had, and then brandished that illegal baton. It's a second felony. And the third felony is he made criminal threats. Yet when SP Spanglish asked for a PPA on a scene, a private person's arrest, they refused it. And they didn't even take the crime report. And then he went to the police station a few days later, and they still refused to take a crime report over that. This is the same incident who I emailed Chief Moore, who just retired, and asked him, "Hey, is this illegal?" And he says, "No, it is not. It is not legal. It is illegal what he did." But yet these detectives refuse to investigate it. You have to show that story and build it from there, showing what happened with Patrick Perry with Aaron, how he went and whacked Aaron in the head, and somehow Aaron is detained. Let's call it what it is. He was arrested for 4 hours. He wasn't detained. He was arrested. He was arrested for 4 hours. And all this was done by Detective Aludo. Detective Aludo handled every one of these incidents. And then we see Detective Aludo was responsible for having Danny, Cam, and DOA arrested. Not just arrested, but arrested for what? For tear gas and conspiracy. These charges are absurd, absolutely absurd. And there's a lot of talk that goes on in LA. We talk about, there's this narrative that crime is out of control, and crime is out of control because we've passed a new law that essentially there isn't any bail for anybody unless it's a serious crime. They release you. They automatically release you unless it's a very serious crime. In these instances, we're talking about somebody protecting themselves with pepper spray, a little tiny pepper spray. One person, somehow it turns into a conspiracy. Why? They just wanted them locked up for a weekend. They knew the charges were never going to stick. They just want to put them to the ride. And we saw it again just the other day with Danny. Poor Danny. Poor Danny. Spent another 4 days in jail for what? For a guy tries to run his scooter into him, and he moves the scooter out of the way, and he's charged with robbery and a hate crime.
What was the hate crime piece? Was it because the man was a Scientologist and religion is protected?
Well, listen, that would be up to the LAPD to decide. They could claim that's some sort of a hate crime because he's a senior. They can claim because, he was targeted because of his religion. That's for the LAPD to decide. Obviously, the district attorney thought otherwise. Let's remember, nobody's actually made it to court with these things. DOA was released without going to court. It was a DA reject. The DA looked at it and says, "No, we're not bringing these charges." It did the same thing with Cam. Did the same thing with Danny. And did the same thing with Danny again.
Yeah.
And again, they know these charges will not stick. They're using the legal system as a weapon against critics of Scientology. And I think that in our universe right here, we're getting a good amount of views. There are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are watching this daily.
Yeah.
But I think that we're right on the cusp of this stuff really reaching larger and larger markets. I mean, listen, we're even talking about this stuff in the National Enquirer and food stands now. So, listen, this is not a sustainable. Everything that the Scientologists are doing, everything that LAPD are doing, it's not sustainable. The facts are on our side. It's just a matter of putting together their narratives and showing people what's going on, and I think they'll be outraged.
Showing them that pattern. Do you think that anything that it will help or be the same with the new police chief that's come in with the LAPD?
So the new chief is temporary, right? So the last police chief stayed on. He said he wanted to stay on for a few years and then help transition into a new police chief. I knew why he wanted to stay on. He knew he needed to. There's a lot of secrets in the LAPD, a lot of files that they're withholding from us that we're going through daily fights to get a hold of. They're trying to hold on to those secrets, and they wanted to transition slowly into the right person. The police chief got caught illegally investigating the mayor, and so the mayor fired him. She didn't call it a firing. She allowed him to retire with grace, but he retired 30 days later. The chief right now is not the permanent police chief. He is just the interim until we get a new permanent police chief. So he's going to be here for, the next 4 months. With my interactions with him over the last 2 weeks, he has been less responsive than Chief Moore.
Yeah.
He'll respond, but it's all a bunch of nonsense. It's just boilerplate template stuff. We're going to investigate this and we'll get back to you in a year type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, I don't know how much you've been tracking or have seen. I know, every morning I'm doing a recap of Scientology news and so much of the protest news. And it started out, it was pretty much all about Hollywood and Los Angeles and what you guys were doing out there. It has spread so
Oh
much.
yeah,
Seattle, Portland,
yeah,
Canada, Australia,
yeah.
Hawaii. I mean, it's getting difficult to keep up. I've been saying I could do 2 recaps a day and still not cover everything. What do you think about that?
I will say that Scientology is in a death spiral. There's no way out of this. It's only going to build. It's going to continue building. I
Mhm,
think everybody has different motivations for doing it. Could be doing it because they have that personal connection, like you have, and been through it with Scientology.
mhm,
Could be because people from the outside are looking in and say, you know what, but this is human trafficking too. And we talk about human trafficking all throughout the world, and we're seeing it happening right here in America. I'm pissed about that. Could be because I'm just a petty guy who got into a fight with a security guard and said, I have to end your whole organization. Everybody has different motivations, but the thing is people are standing up and they're talking about it. And I totally believe the main reason is everybody's always thought poorly of the Church of Scientology.
mhm.
We all have. It's just that everybody was kind of scared to go up against them because why? Because you're going to have to deal with a lot of junk that comes along with it. I think people right now aren't as scared. They're just not scared.
Yeah.
And then they can go out here and break my nose and knock out Chris' tooth and give him stitches. They can do these things, but I got to tell you, this doesn't make the Church of Scientology look good. And I think that there's this, especially the younger generation, they're unafraid of this stuff. This
Yeah.
doesn't bother them at all, and they want to stand for something. Every young generation wants to be a part of some sort of cause. We see this, you know, you know, I've given a few speeches at college that for law classes and journalism classes. And I just see these young people, they want to be a part of something. A
Mhm.
few years ago, I saw a lot of them after the George Floyd's incident. A lot of people got involved in all types of activism, not related to police, people doing activism, feeding homeless. And I think people had time because they were home with COVID. Everybody was sort of had a lot of time to deal with. But young people want to be involved with something. Young people lost a few years over the last couple of years of their life, and so they want to be part of a cause that honestly feels like they'll get some sort of returns in the end. I think it's easy for people to say, okay, let me just donate to this foundation. You feel like 96% of that money just goes into the pockets of the people running the organization, and it's not a lot of trust. This is something where you personally can get involved in any different multiple ways. You could
Yeah.
be on the ground, you could be recapping these stories, you could be putting together your own TikToks or YouTubes talking about it, whatever. But it's something that I think people have seen. They've been watching us, this reality show, day in, day and night. I think they become attached to the work we've done. LAPD likes to say we do this for clicks and views. I got to tell you something. Jessica, who lost her TikTok account, massive TikTok account, $1.1 million. This is not the way to get hits and views. She does this because honestly, she's into it. She cares.
Yeah.
She truly cares. And so do the other people out there.
Mhm. Yeah, that is something that's really evident, and that's what's so beautiful about it. And to see those worlds come together of First Amendment auditors and,
Yeah.
just the kids who've come up and they're learning and understanding their rights more. And me and my Tony went to Chicago recently to protest for the very first time. I've never protested anything, let alone Scientology. And it was my first time going back to Scientology in the 13 years that I
Mm.
left, and I got to meet the people who were there doing it, and I got to meet quite a few of the college kids who were nearby and get their thoughts on it. And there's an interesting theme to me that I know I connect, it resonates with me. There seems to be almost this awakening. And I thought it was just me or maybe other people who, like myself, second generation ex-Scientologists who were leaving and really realizing like, it's one thing to leave, but we can fight back. We can call them out on their stuff. Why are we just letting it happen? There needs to be more. And to have so many people never in Scientology stand up, because like what you said, I think it's resonating with them that this is something, this may not have been your bully, but they are a bully. And people are coming together, and Scientology is quickly becoming this physical manifestation of a bully culture that we in society are no longer going to tolerate.
I think you know. I never really thought about that. Yeah, they are the ultimate bullies, but
Mhm.
they're a weak bully. They're a paper tiger bully because they're the bullies. Again, they expected the LAPD to do all their dirty work, and if the LAPD is doing their dirty work, eventually LAPD won't be able to. Eventually, what the LAPD done, their corruption with this is
Mhm.
going to be so well known, and they're gonna have so much pressure against them, they're gonna have to back away. Then what does Scientology do? They're not real bullies. They're on their own. They're not particularly scary. And at that point, listen, this is the same organization where generations of people, my generation and others, people older than me, were sort of scared of them. Like, oh, don't criticize them. You don't want them coming after you. Now we have a bunch of 18-year-olds or 16-year-olds like Solomon who sit in front of there, and then they're bullying back in a ways, but it's a sort of happy bullying. They're mocking them. They're just sort of making fun of them, and they don't know how to react. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, they definitely don't. They definitely don't. It's very freeing in ways to even coming here on YouTube for me, having an opportunity to not just talk about Scientology and share my experience, but to actually recognize the absurdity of so much of it. Those are the things that are funny when we talk about making fun of it. It's really just acknowledging how ridiculous it is and opening your eyes to that. And it is hilarious at times when I look back and I go, wow, I can't believe that we thought that we had no other choice but to do that. Because you're right, they're a cowardly bully. With the changes that hopefully are going to happen within the LAPD, do you have any sense of, because Scientology is the biggest financial donor to the LAPD and a lot of their causes. Do you have any sense at all as to at what point does the LAPD be like, oh man, we got this Scientology stink all over us and we don't want to be a part of it?
It's listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I'll be honest with you. If we just let things be as they are, we wouldn't get to that point anytime soon. With
Yeah.
that having been said, I got a lot of belief in myself. I know how to put together a narrative, and essentially I'm just putting, listen, I'll tell it straight up. Officer White, the main Scientology defender, I bought his the office brianwhitelapd.com. And I'm going to write out a whole narrative and showing every individual date and what he has done, from him trying to bully SP Spanglish at the Blue Building, even though he had parked by the parking lot. He made a beeline to the Sunset side to go confront him. Why? I don't know. He wanted to shut him down from protesting. And it's not even Officer White's district, his division. He was outside of his division. What was he doing over there in uniform trying to bully somebody? And when I confronted him about it, he said, oh, well, is that guy a good guy? Well, it's none of your business whether it's not for you to decide. It's irrelevant. He's out there protesting as he's allowed to. Showing these incidents, I listen, we have like 10 incidents of showing over and over. And then publishing that website. And the first thing when you Google Officer Brian White, that's going to pop up. Well, how is he going to feel when his friends and family see his behavior like that? And then confronting the LAPD. Listen, like I said, we can talk about individual incidents. We could talk about a Ludo last week failing to take a crime report
Yeah.
and confront and complain to the LAPD about that, and they're going to say, okay, we're going to file a complaint and we'll see you in a year. But you can't just do these things one at a time. You have to string all these incidents together, throw it on a web page, completely laying out exactly what happened, all these instances, confronting not just the LAPD commission, but also the politicians and stuff. I'm going to give everybody the proper emails that they need, right? So it's one thing to send an email to the police chief and to the LAPD commission, but you got to send it to about 40 different journalists too at the
Mm.
same time. All the journalists that cover this stuff in LA need to be sent this stuff to, and they need to be held accountable if they're not going to report on it. I will. And so I think that if we put together the narratives, confront the LAPD properly, oh yeah, I honestly, I think a month from now there's going to be a different attitude, and you're going to see a lot of people backing off. And when I string together all these officer profiles, they'll be online showing their connection to Scientology. Let's let their friends, family, neighbors, acquaintances, what do they think about their behavior? What are the Aludo's family and friends think about his behavior. And when we throw together and put together YouTube videos showing just his behavior time and time again, it's going to get out there. It's going to penetrate. And let's see what happens then. And then we're going to see what happens with the LAPD commission and the higher ups in the LAPD. And the politicians, every politician needs to be confronted. Hugo Soto Martinez, this happened in your district. What do you think about these incidents? Do you think the way that these officers are acting are proper? Put them all under, demand answers from all of them.
Mhm.
And what I mean by, I mean demand. A lot of people will send an email or will, call and say, "Hey, can we get some answers?" Politicians are never going to answer you. You have to get up in their face and force them to. And I will.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. It's so fascinating to me that how, with the cop watching that you've been doing for years and putting this magnifying glass on the LAPD and the corruption, even though it was somewhat of a happy coincidence to stumble upon Scientology and what was happening and have those two come together, it really seems to be such a great relationship because it looks like that some of the biggest corruption in the LAPD is their relationship with Scientology.
Yeah, listen, it's their relationship with Scientology, but it's also their relationships in
Mm,
general, right? So if they have a good relationship with a certain business, they're going to do a lot of things for that business. And look at how the bar behind La Poubelle,
yeah.
or even La Poubelle itself. Yes, there's a connection to Scientology, but this is more of like a business relationship. They have that sort of connection. I see this with the senior lead officers throughout Hollywood, whether it be Scientology related or not. What we are seeing is there's general corruption. I got to tell you, I got to be honest with you, as a police accountability activist, and that's what I consider myself first and foremost.
Mhm.
Everything that's happened with Scientology and the LAPD has been a boon for what I do. For
Yeah.
years, I've been talking about how corrupt the LAPD is. The LAPD is, and people are like, "Oh, you just hate the cops. Oh, you're not being fair. Oh," and I'd show him evidence, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to look at that. It's not true."
Mhm.
Now you're seeing it differently. Before, you were seeing it happen to a lot of young Black men and Latino men.
Mhm.
Now you're seeing it happen to a white guy like Aaron,
Mhm.
or a white kid like Cam,
Yeah.
or DOA, or Danny.
Mm.
Of course, Danny's Latino, but my point is, you're seeing it happen. I think people are able to connect now with the LAPD corruption from this way better than they had in the past. It's hard to look at this and not say, "Wow, that's absolutely corrupt." I get messages from people, from cops, saying, "Wow, that was really messed up." I've always believed in the LAPD and stuff, but now I see this and I see how corrupt they are. You're right. I apologize for all those years of doubting you. So from that standpoint, it's been a boon for my police accountability. It's just really been helpful. At the same time, they put Aaron through it. They put Danny through it. They put Cam through it, and they damn sure put DOA through it. And that's not right.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful marriage in a way, and watching it break up and come down will be even better. To be able to use that example of with the LAPD with their corruption and shine a light on the fact that the organization that they are protecting and committing these illegal acts in the name of is a child trafficking cult.
Yes.
And that's all coming out at the same time. There's going to be nowhere to hide if you are a defender of Scientology, especially because I'm like, look, if you're a Scientologist and you want to defend Scientology because you believe in it or you support them for whatever reason, fine. But these cops don't support Scientology because they think it's this great thing. At least I don't think that's the case. I think it's financial. And then I
Mhm.
think that their Scientology love bombs them. We've heard
Yes.
multiple stories of Scientology using celebrities in Clearwater in LA, having them over to John Travolta's house back in the day, Kirstie Alley's, and loving on them to get them to go along with it.
Yeah, I think they absolutely stroke their egos and tell them how
Mhm.
awesome they are. And let's have these community engagements together. And we're going to praise you. And here's $50,000 for your union. And here's another $100,000 for the police foundation. And thank you, officers. We appreciate you more than anybody else. And they love that. And why don't you guys come by? We're having some sort of festival and come by and we'll have great food for you and whatever else, just schmoozing them. And I think that there are honestly, a lot of officers who have no idea what Scientology is, seriously.
Yeah.
So they just think, oh, well, it's just another religion. What's the big deal? The problem is now people all throughout the internet are learning about Scientology. Like you said, the child trafficking cult that it is.
Yeah.
The multi-level marketing scheme that it is, the abusive cult that it is. And those officers are going to have a hard time defending themselves to their own kids who are
Yeah.
going to watch TikToks and YouTubes and whatever else
Mm-hmm.
showing all of this happening. It's just, this is, I know the Church of Scientology has to use a certain playbook that they've been using for, using L. Ron Hubbard's sort of teachings and following that playbook. And because of that, they can't adapt. LAPD is sort of doing the same thing. They're using an old playbook and they don't know how to adapt. In ways, yes, they have the power, so they can get away with not arresting us or not arresting them or arresting us. It's only temporary. This doesn't this doesn't last in the long term. We're on the right side for the long term. We just have to keep on pounding it away. And as you see, we don't even have to do it out here as much anymore because it's happening all throughout the country.
Yeah, there's a lot of attention. Even in Chicago, there's a Commander Harris who's been called out a lot lately since the opening, he's the one who told Danny when Danny was there protesting in Chicago during the opening that if you yell, I'm arresting you.
And that's actually, I looked up the code. The
Yeah.
code says you're allowed, you cannot, if your voice travels over 100 feet, you can be arrested, but it's only between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. During the daytime, you are allowed to.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. He got called out on that left and right. And I know that had this not happened in LA, well, for one, Danny wouldn't have been there, but there wouldn't have been the same level of protest. But the key part for me, and I think a key difference and a change in what's making this round of protests against Scientology and in exposing police corruption is the education piece. That's where having you and other First Amendment auditors come forward and go, hey, wake up, people. You don't have to go along with this. This is wrong. Know what your rights are. Understand, know how to conduct yourself. That has been a game changer.
Yeah. And and another game changer has been just the unforced errors by the LAPD. Listen, I appreciate Danny so much. He has taken these licks in ways that, and Leah, she's right there with him. When he's locked up, I'm telling you, he's not thinking about himself. He's thinking about Leah. He's worried about her. Yeah. He's taken these licks, but he's shown how corrupt the process is. He's showing how the Church of Scientology will send an elderly man out there just to create these fights and stuff. So I don't think there's a bigger lesson than that. In a lot of ways, it's highly effective at helping us, not them. It's temporary what they put Danny through. But, like I said, it's unfair it had to happen to him. But I have all the respect in the world for him. The guy is an absolute warrior. Yeah. And I'm happy to know him.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I'm going to grab a couple questions. Trailblazer Lara, thank you for the super chat. The problem with every government agency in LA is that most of them got in office with ulterior motives. Who knows what they've got to hide? That is why they are covering each other's backs.
Ooh, yeah, sure. Listen, the city government in LA, the FBI has already said is as corrupt or more corrupt than Chicago, which is saying something. Right now, we have 15 members on the city council, 15 seats. Over the last, say, 4 years or 5 years, 4 of them have either been sent to prison or have been arrested, right? It's a ton of corruption. It's a highly corrupt city council. And with that corruption, since they know each other's secrets, there's a lot of apathy when it comes to stuff, when, accountability. There are a lot, they basically say, oh, listen, we're not going to call anybody out because we don't want to be called out. So we just let things happen. So the city government is corrupt and the LAPD sort of takes their cues from there. Listen, LAPD gets half of our discretionary budget. I say it over and over again. They are the most powerful force in this town. They run the politicians. It's not the other way around. If they don't want you in office, they'll get rid of you.
Wow. So, wow. Yeah. That's interesting. Casey Cat, thank you. She says, and the swatting that they refuse to do anything about. They're going to get someone hurt or worse. Hashtag Gude girl.
Yeah, listen, the swatting, even if they don't know what to do about it, like as far as prosecuting, holding somebody accountable, the watch commander still has to make a decision on how they respond to it. So if we're calling because this guy has assaulted us, the cops will be there in about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
If somebody's calling because they said that we assaulted one of them, the cops are going to be there in 2 minutes with a helicopter or whatever else.
Mhm.
Look at what happened to Jessica when she was up in the Hollywood Hills at that
Yeah.
party. They didn't have to send that many cops. And they also knew that it was the lady who comes into the police station often. They knew who they were responding to.
Yeah.
She just got her car out of the tow yard when they purposely had her towed. And they decided to have that response. The watch commander, who was most likely that night either a Ludo or a Detective Rand.
Mhm.
Those are the ones who absolutely can't stand us. So they knew what they were doing. So it's not a matter of just the swatting; it's the LAPD's chosen response to these SWAT calls.
Yeah, because they could make that call differently with what they know already.
I have seen them when there's a shooting call come in. They send one patrol car down the street to see if there anything happened. If they don't see anything, they keep on going and they say, you know, nothing happened.
Wow. Susie G, thank you. What if protesters ask, have you lost your family yet? We can help. It needs to be something personal to affect them, in my opinion. Yep, Susie asking protesters, that's a great idea. Beaker Bop's asking, would William make a video teaching us all about our rights, overall human rights, to educate us all more on what we can do and can't do?
Yeah, I would do it on human rights. I mean, if you want to look at just talking about some basic constitutional rights, if you go to Film the Police LA, if you search on there, the current LA controller, I did a cop watching class for him when he was running for controller. He's probably the only person I trust in city government right now.
Mm.
I did a cop watching class there, and I have that video posted on my personal YouTube. But yeah, I should probably do some more videos and just teaching people basic rights and stuff.
Yeah. Gene is asking this question. Has anyone put together all the video clips for you to show the police? Is that something that you need help with at all?
Yes. Oh God. I think about that all the time. I'm like, how am I going to get the time? I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna hire an assistant. I just got to find the right person. I just need them to put together. Like, I need help. I'll be honest with you. I need help
Yeah.
with that. Like, I
I
can,
think
I
you can
can, I
rally
can
that.
make, I can hammer the LAPD if I had some people kind of putting together all the clips I need. Like, for instance, all the instances that happened with Officer Brian White. I
Mm.
need those clips, but some of them require going through my lives, and some of those lives are 2-3 hours long, and screen recording them and posting this. If people could actually like put together files of all the instances with White, all the instances with Ludo, all the instances with Patrick Perry,
Yeah.
um, you know, that would be so helpful. I could get
Yeah.
if I could get that done, I would get a lot, a lot.
Well, I think that's something that we can work on. Anybody who wants to help on that, you can email me, Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com. And then I'll talk to Kelly Copter. I don't know if you're familiar with her work. She's in England, but she's done some amazing video work in putting a compilation together. She's the one that put together all the different angles of Aaron's attack
Oh, okay.
and the whole thing played out. She just does amazing work. And I'm sure there's other people as well to see.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, because I would like to spend my time on this
Mhm.
confronting the officials one way or another, whether it be by email, by phone, or literally making visits to them. And the less time I spend doing this sort of,
Yeah.
I consider us against the administrative side, the
Yeah.
better. So I would appreciate any help on that.
Yeah, well, I'll keep rallying the troops on that and see if we can get a couple people that'll kind of take charge of it and run with it. But I mean, you guys can email me and then I'll put together as many as we can to see like, okay, who can do what? Because if you break it down, it won't be as hard if one person takes each officer and then finds those videos
Yeah,
and does that. Nerd Report, thank you for that. He says, I'm honored to know Will. Thank you for being you, bro.
I appreciate that. That's a good guy right there. I really like him a lot.
Look at this. Tim Tallman's face sweat.
Ah,
Streets is bringing the heat, got me and my comrades sweating.
he better feel it. Tim Tomlin better feel that sweat because I'm just getting started with him. I'm just listen. I think he thinks that the heat has died down. No, I let these things sit for a few months. A complaint hasn't even been filed over Aaron's incident. A complaint is going to be filed over it. I'm going to handle that. I'm going to drive that thing as hard as I can. I'm going to force the LAPD commission to make a comment about it. I'm going to force the chief to make a comment. I don't care if I have to send him 20 emails in a row. You know, I send emails and I'll ask a question. If they don't answer, the next day I say, this is my second attempt. Here's my question, answer it. And I do that day after day. I don't care if it has to if it takes 40 emails in a row. Eventually, they just feel that pressure, especially with 40, 50 reporters blind copied. But yeah, no, Tommen, you watch. We haven't even started with you.
I love that. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll definitely keep rallying the troops and see who we can get kind of lined up that way. And like I said, everybody, you can email me, Natalie@lifeafteraccult.com, and then we'll have a few people lined up who know more about video editing and can put that together. So if you want to volunteer to do that and get involved in that way, reach out to me and we'll get that going for you, Will. And then we'll coordinate with you and just find out like, okay, which officers, how much do we, what's the format it would need to be in? If whatever those details are, I'll get those from you and we'll get this figured out and we'll get it done.
Hell yeah. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Let's do it. That's your call to action, people. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up here. I'm so excited that you came on and chatted about that. And we have a direction because a lot of times, too, a lot of the emails I get is, I want to help. What can I do? I can't go out there and protest, but here's my skill set. And I know we have some incredibly talented tech people, too, that I know can help with this as well. So I'll focus on trying to get those things together and then coordinate with you and see the best way to organize it. That's why the tech people who know, how do we do it? Do we do a Google share file? Like what's the best way to do it? We'll get that figured out.
Awesome.
And then, we'll be in touch. So thank you so much for being here and
Thank
sharing.
you.
And I know we'll have you on again to chat about stuff. So hang with me for just a second. I'm going to wrap up. Everybody else, thank you for being here. Hit that like button on your way out and please hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, get out there and have the most amazing cult-free day.